So we will go ahead and jump in. Really excited to share with you guys 5 automated marketing campaigns that every sports team needs. So on our team, I have implemented most of the sports teams that we work with. And as I'm working with different clients, the same sort of use cases come up repeatedly in terms of how they move to a marketing automation platform and sort of what their goals are. And so I want to share with you some key things that if you don't already have in place that you want to start to consider. So before I jump into that, I do want to start with, I am making some assumptions here. So number one, I am assuming that you have a marketing automation platform in place or are in the process of purchasing one. I, of course, have my opinions on which ones are better and the limitations of others, but the assumption here is that you have something that does allow you to do automated marketing. The second assumption is that you not only have a CRM system, but that your CRM system is integrated with your marketing automation platform so that you have that data flow and that you also have access to ticketing data within your marketing automation platform. I have seen some teams that don't choose to integrate that ticketing data, that they're, have a bit of a lag, but they do have some of it brought in. But these 3 things are really the foundation of a modern marketing tech stack for sports. And so these are 3 key things. Obviously, the content's still relevant if you don't have these 3 things in place, but this is where everyone should start in being able to do proper modern marketing. And so let's talk about that. So for most teams, they start with an email marketing platform, whether it's TM Mail or MailChimp or Constant Contact or any of those smaller platforms that are really around batch and blast, push communications. In some cases, there may be some sort of drip automation, but no real logical workflow. And then you feel some pain. It starts to become frustrating in that you bump up against the ceiling of what the technology will do. It's taking too much time. There's too much manual effort and redundancy. And so from there, that's what leads you to actually purchase a marketing automation platform. But what we see a lot is that the kinds of communications that you were doing in your email marketing platform, the game day announcements, the newsletters, the events, those ad hoc communications, we got a new coach, naming rights for the stadium, all those sorts of things that were happening, those things still happen when you move to a marketing automation platform and you're still having those push communications. But the challenge is if you never move beyond that, you are essentially doing the same things that you were doing in an email platform in a more advanced marketing automation platform. And so what I want to talk to you today is how you keep doing those things that you're already doing and that you have to do, but to focus on these 5 automated campaigns. So the biggest opportunity is season ticket campaign for non-hand raisers. I think every team that I've worked with has some form of form or something where someone can say, yes, I'm interested in season tickets. But there is a wealth of data available through your ticketing data and your CRM that can help to identify those people who are not necessarily thinking about season tickets, but have a high propensity to buy. The second is supporting the sales cycle with those hand raisers for season tickets. Renewal campaign, a lot of people are doing something around renewals, but it's not necessarily automated. Non-renewals is an opportunity. We'll talk about how you can still nurture those that did not renew before the deadline. And very important is the first-year purchasers. When someone first makes a purchase with us, it's very important that we nurture that relationship beyond the sale to continue to build those trusted relationships and that they renew season after season. So that's telling you what we're going to cover today. I'm going to go through and break all of those down for you. So first thing here is the season ticket campaign for non-hand raisers. So in the upper left, I have some examples of data that is available through your ticketing system that can identify those that have a propensity to buy. So someone has visited the season ticket page multiple times. In some cases, you may have someone that is thinking about it and they kind of go online and see what the options are and see what you have there, but they're not quite ready to pull the trigger, so they don't actually reach out. Or it may be that they're, as a family, having this conversation and then it's just not a high enough priority and they forget. Those that purchase single game tickets so many times, and what that X value is going to vary from one sport to the next. There's only 8 home games for the NFL, but there's tons and tons and tons for basketball and hockey. So that number is going to vary, but someone who is purchasing a certain number of season ticket or single game tickets within a single season is primed for being able to get season tickets. Those that purchase on the secondary market. So if you think about if you're in a market where, especially where the team is hot, someone is spending more on the secondary market than if they are buying them directly from you. And so in some cases, purchasing 2 games on the secondary market may have been the cost of 4 games if they had purchased them directly or had season tickets. And so looking at those that are repeatedly buying on the secondary market is an opportunity. And then former season ticket owners who have single game purchases. Different people opt not to renew their season tickets for different reasons. In some cases, it could be financial hardship or change in schedule, or someone just had a baby, or whatever the case may be. There may be reasons that they don't renew for a season, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not an opportunity. And so what we want to do is we want to build filters or dynamic lists or whatever your system calls them to then bring them into a campaign. And the first layer of that campaign is really focusing around sparking interest and creating consideration. So one thing to always think about when you're building a nurture is we're not trying to boil the ocean in one campaign. And so you always really have to think about, what is this campaign trying to solve? And in this scenario, all we are trying to do is get them committed to the consideration. There may be some people that will, see this, they'll buy, and it'll be great. Sales job will be really easy. But really, our focus as marketers is to get them committed to actually considering making the purchase. And that's what success looks like here. And so here we have these first communications, and I'm using 3 because, it fits on a slide. But, we have that game day experience, like play on that fear of missing out. Like, if I've never been a season ticket holder, what am I really getting? Like, what is that experience like? As we go through, we always want to make sure that there's the ability to raise their hand. We don't want to feel like, oh, well, we have to force them to receive 5 emails before we're going to prompt them to talk to someone. If I look at your game day video or whatever content that you put out there, and I am moved and I'm ready to talk to someone now, that should be easy for me. You can't make it hard for me to give you my money. And then maybe it's the season ticket owner exclusives. So I'm here in Atlanta, and we are season ticket owners for the Falcons. And one of the big advantages is there's lots of things, lots of benefits. We just watched the draft from the stadium. Our first game is away, and so usually they'll do the first game within the stadium. There's like Christmas pictures and all these different things that are exclusive to those that are season ticket holders. And so those benefits are often things that people don't know are opportunities when they own season tickets. And then if they still don't raise their hand, we have some third benefit message, like depending on what those things are. So it's kind of that first layer. Oops. Then when we add in the second layer of that, at some point you're going to say either we're going to spark some interest, and they're going to be engaged in our campaign. So here, when we get in this lower right, if they didn't raise their hand, we're going to see after this first set of emails, have they engaged with us? And what's really important here is that we are not just looking at the click. Most people, when they build a campaign, all of their things are send an email, did they click, send another email. There are so many more ways to engage than just a click. And so we want to make sure we're looking, did they go to the web pages? Have they filled out other forms? Have they been pricing tickets? Whatever information that we can see that indicates, yeah, they still might be a good prospect, we want to put that in front of them. And so if they still haven't raised their hand at this point, but we know that we've piqued some interest, the next layer of communications is really overcoming those typical objections before they've had the opportunity to make them. because people have in their head preconceived notions about what something looks like, what it costs, what the commitment is, et cetera. And so if you can overcome those barriers that they have, it opens them up to talking to you. So in this example, we have pricing plans and payments. So if I'm thinking in my mind, oh, season tickets have got to be crazy expensive, I can't afford it, and I get something that says there's season ticket packages as low as something that, or gives me a range between this and that, then I'm like, maybe I can afford that. And then I'm open to actually having that conversation. Um, as we go through, we're going to continue to check and see, did they raise their hand? Have they engaged? At some point, if engagement falls off, there always has to be a point of no return where we say, this person is not it. We're not going to keep communicating with them. I put these steps in brackets because essentially after every email, we're going to have that check. I didn't put it here just for the sake of space, but we want to always be looking. Have they raised their hand? If they've raised their hand, we want them to go to the next campaign that we're going to talk about, and that's for those hand raisers. If they stop engaging and aren't showing interest, at some point we have to remove them. And then here I use two other overcoming objections, the option to resell, especially for basketball and hockey, with there being so many home games, it can be overwhelming to commit to that number of games and making your schedule align. So reminding people that even if you can't attend all the games, you could actually make money off these tickets by selling them. Attend what you want. For hockey and basketball, there's usually like half season or multi-game or, those sort of less commitments, putting those options in front of them, as well as the entertainment and other access. Like, I know for some stadiums that also do concerts and things like that, there's benefits around being able to buy concert tickets early or buying them for a lower rate, like really putting in front of them, what are the objections and how do we overcome that? When we start to do all of these things, it really helps them to not only gain more interest, but it helps the sales process be easier because we've already given them the information that is relevant. The second thing is the hand raisers. And the big thing here, I did a very basic workflow and not float it all the way out because I just really wanted to make a key point here, is that with your season ticket campaign for your hand raisers, it cannot be sales is doing their thing, marketing is doing this other thing. There has to be alignment between marketing and sales. Marketing needs to understand what are the SLAs, what are the service level agreements, what is sales expected to do when a lead is put in front of them. If someone fills out a form that says I might be interested in season tickets, what's the expectation? Are they supposed to call them in 3 hours, in 24 hours, in 3 days? Understanding what is expected of sales. How many times are they expected to attempt contact if they can't reach someone? Once they do reach someone, what options are they giving? I've seen some stadiums that offer tours when someone is considering purchasing season tickets. Others that they just don't do that. What is that process? Marketing has to understand that so that marketing can determine what email communications align to that process. So in my example here, we have those hand raisers. We're going to push those leads to sales as leads in CRM. So we want to make sure that that's automated so that it gets to them as quickly as possible. We want to warm them up for the sales follow-up. So someone has, you think about it as a conversation. If someone says something to you, you say something back. And so we want to give them some sort of benefits of being a season ticket holder, some sort of primer information that they'll receive prior to hearing back from the salesperson. This gives them something to think about. It gives them a frame of reference. If they're in that buying process, they can start to click and look at links. If you've got PDFs of, like your packages or, the little augmented reality stadiums, you can see what, it looks like from different seats, all those sorts of things. They can start to do those things. Sales can follow up, and then marketing should wait some period of time. We have to know what's happening with the sales conversation. If someone says, I totally filled out that form by accident, I don't even live in this country, I'm not interested, we don't want to be nurturing them. And so we want to make sure that we give some time for something to happen on the sales side, and then figure out what's the next right move. And so here I just used two very simple examples. Is there an active opportunity for the season ticket member? If so, there's some set of communications that are right for someone who is in an active opportunity and actively engaged with sales. Has sales been unable to reach them? If that's the case, then we can continue that conversation. They had some interest because they actually raised their hand. So we want to make sure that we don't just let it drop because sales can't reach them. But at the same time, sales is human capital. They are only going to spend effort where they see return. And so marketing can support that. And so I just have continues here because you'd figure out what those right communications are. But the key here is nurtured leads make 47% larger purchases than non-nurtured leads. And the reason for that is there is only so much a salesperson can say. If, I fill out a form that says I may be interested in season tickets and the sales rep calls me, I'm receptive to that call. I'm not going to sit on the phone with them for 3 hours as they go through every single option and package that's out there. They're going to lead with what they feel is the best option based on what they know about me. That may or may not be what's actually best. It may or may not be what I actually care about. Whereas if I'm nurtured and I'm being introduced to different options, what does it look like if I want to sit club level or in a box? What is it if I want the full season versus a half? All these sorts of things, if I'm getting the information that I need through the nurture process, I'm more likely to buy more because I'm exposed to more options. So the key is that we need to leverage that CRM data to support the sales process. We need to know what's happening digitally without having to actually go ask someone, where are we with this lead? It's not possible to do that. We need to be able to know what's happening because sales owns that conversation, but marketing can add significant value if we are supporting them in the right way. So that's number 2. Number 3 here is a renewal campaign. And so with a renewal campaign, I didn't do a workflow here because it's less about the workflow and more about the personalization. When we are trying to renew, we have to make sure that we are speaking to people on the right level. Generic renewal campaigns are only going to work for those people that the decision to renew is an obvious one. And that's not always the case, and we can't take that for granted. So these are 3 examples of, good opportunities here. Ticket holders that attend with their families, appealing to them differently. This is something, family traditions. You are, your great-great-grandfather was a fan of this team. They've attended games since then. Now you too want to do this with your children. Here are the options that are relevant for you. Is it that you've got some package that comes with, hot dogs and sodas for every home game? Like, what is it that you offer, or what can you craft? Because this is an opportunity for marketing to have influence beyond just marketing. What are the options in terms of what you're offering that are valuable? I know here in Atlanta, the Hawks do a lot of things around, promoting families, and they'll have multiple game packages that also come with, the food and these sorts of things all rolled in, and it's really promoted around driving family attendance. So how do you get those families to renew and to talk to them in ways that speak to them? You also have those diehard fans, some of them that come alone, some that come with friends. How do you compete against, oh, all my friends aren't here, my other group of friends go watch at this bar? Why is it that I should still come here and actually be a part of the game day experience? What other options are there? I know there's a lot of the stadiums have, sort of a section where, those are those diehard fans. They're in the costumes and they're painted and, all these sorts of things. Like, is there an opportunity for me to be more involved there or to move in that section? Or, what are those options? Likewise, some people enter at the lowest price point. So, I'm sitting at the top of the stadium, hanging from the rafters, dropping the little, goodies off the thing for the different little games. can you renew me, but also get me to move to a higher price point, to upgrade to better tickets or a package or something more. So making sure that we are leveraging the technology and the data that we have, because you have a wealth of data. I mean, you can get as granular as to where people are purchasing in some cases. How do we actually put that data to good use in a way that's meaningful to actually drive those renewals? So that's number 3. Number 4 is kind of a tough one. So we have the non-renewals. Some sales practices always say that, no doesn't necessarily mean no, keep pushing. I am not of that mindset. I do think you have to respect the no. If someone clearly says, no, we're not going to renew our season tickets, that is what it is. However, there are a lot of scenarios where you are just not getting a response. So you're emailing, your sales is reaching out. So although we need to respect the no, we have the opportunity to nurture the silence. And so the key here is, can we get season tickets at a lower price point? If you have the option of offering, half season packages or multi-game packages, how do we narrow what we're selling them so that we're still selling them more, keeping them as a customer, selling them more than them just buying, one-off single games? How do we keep them in our pipeline and stay engaged with them even when they're not willing to actually purchase season tickets, when we can't hear from them? Because in many cases, the silence is just not wanting to say the no. Like, I really want to keep my season tickets, but I can't afford them anymore. I really want to keep my season tickets, but the way my schedule is set up, it's not realistic. Those are a lot of times the people who really don't want to non-renew, but they feel like that's their only option. And so, although this is not a campaign that I anticipate has a high return rate, but the key is you're going to capture some of those people who their silence is not actually a no, and so you can bring them in. And the beauty is, this is one that once you get the campaign built, it kind of just runs season after season. So although it's not a campaign with a high conversion, it's also not a campaign with high effort. You have to tweak each season because things change, but for the most part, these are all campaigns that really can run over and over and over with minimal effort of just really updating things and not going back to the drawing board every season. And that's really what I see a lot of teams doing, is everything is starting from scratch every year, and it's a lot of work. And so it's very difficult to do new things when you're spinning your wheels, redoing things that you have to do year after year. And then the final one, which is very near and dear to my heart, which is first-year purchasers. This is another opportunity where I see people ignore. And this is within the sports industry, within the B2B world. We focus so much on driving the actual purchase that what happens is we fail to think about what we're saying to them after the initial purchase. And so, people buy things, and, depending on how soon they purchase, there may be nothing that they are hearing from you other than your, general communications, your newsletters and things that are going out. So I highly encourage you to think about, what are those right messages for those that are purchasing season tickets for the first time. So the first set of communications, generally after they purchase, there are some administrative type emails that go out, access to how they make their payments and all those sorts of things. So I would encourage you to wait a period of time before the marketing nurture starts. I'm assuming 7 days, but depending on what is triggered by an actual purchase and when those communications go out, this number could be very different for you. But the key is that you want to wait some period of time so that you're not hitting them with too many emails. Then the first set of communications is really around preseason preparation. So making an assumption that most people actually purchase season tickets, at least, a few weeks before the season starts. It's the what to expect this season. So making people excited. What am I in for? What sorts of, things outside of the actual games should I be looking out for and blocking my calendar for? Where can I get gear? That was when I first bought my season tickets. That was the first thing, was like, up, I've got to up my wardrobe. I now need 8 distinct outfits because, who wears the same thing twice? Probably most men, but not so much me. And then, what's the important info? If you think about what gets sent out after a purchase, there's a whole lot of important info that gets sent. There's info related to parking and payments and, how you sell your tickets. And, it's usually multiple communications. So having one email that says, here's all the important stuff, save this, and actually calling that out is really a value add for the person who has purchased. I don't have to sort through a whole bunch of different emails that came. I've got everything that I need to know around my purchase in one email, and I'm going to save that. I'm going to bookmark it. I'm going to mark it as important, whatever system you use. But those are those communications that help me feel good about the purchase that I've made. And then we'd wait until a certain period of time before our actual first game. And these are really making sure that that first game experience as a season ticket holder is a good one and something to remember. It doesn't matter if you've been to that stadium 50 times before, with friends or buying single games. It is different when you become a season ticket holder because it's an investment in the team. You now feel a part. It's almost like starting a new job. And so you really want to capitalize on that fan excitement. So, it's almost time. What are you going to wear? Game day prep, the parking, the directions, those sorts of things. The today is the day, pretty much most teams have some sort of hype video, whether it's, players or fans or whatever, like just how do you get me really excited and talking about this so that it is like the first day of school. You think about like first day of school every year. It's like, what am I going to wear? This is the first time I see these people, the first time I'm going to meet my seatmates who I'm going to spend, multiple games with all season. How do I get there? Where's the best place to park? What gate is going to be closest to my seats? What food is around my seats so that I can plan my meals? Where can I get my drink? All these things that are, sort of those first day of school nervousness and excitement, you can capitalize on that as well. And then the later stage is really where we get into that loyalty and retention and set yourself up for the renewal right at the beginning. So after that first game, if they've attended, give us your feedback and not the standard feedback survey that most teams send to everyone after the game. Send first time season ticket members, something more personal around these. This is the feedback we want for you as your first game as a season ticket holder. Then help to make sure that they know different things. So there have been different things that, I have learned as a season ticket holder, or even things that have come up when I've been working with clients that are not obvious in terms of, where there's events or things they should pay attention to, or areas of the stadium where there might be something unique. Just, those did you knows that help you make the most out of that is really a feel good. It's not leading to any sort of specific revenue. It's again helping me to feel like this was a good decision. And then at some point, I have, 2 games thinking about the NFL. This number may make sense to be more for NBA and NHL because there's so many games. But after so many home games, have they attended at least a certain number of them? If the answer is no, someone should be reaching out to them to have a conversation and understand what's happening. If someone buys season tickets and they are right out of the gate not attending, that's a red flag. So you want to make sure that someone is paying attention and gives that personal follow-up and not an automated email. And then finally, if they have attended so many games, like what's that experience been? Again, giving that pulse check. What's your favorite part? Share your photos. This is one that could use a signature rule or something that or that personalizes it so that it appears to come from their account manager, but something that again helps to solidify for them that this was a good decision. So just quick summary. I'm not going to reread all of this because you guys will get you'll have access to this. But these are sort of the summary of the 5 campaigns, and on the right, all the key benefits. The things to focus on here.